With this here, this ain't about being flashy. This is game day, son. It's only about one thing. Getting that W. That's the only thing that matters right now. Boy, you ready?
The past is the past, you know? It's a new day, bro. I'ma put it on my day. You gotta do it now.
Blindside Fantasy Football Podcast back for another episode. Today's podcast, we're going to recap all the Week 7 games, go over all the injuries, because God knows there's a lot of them this weekend. Preview the Thursday night game, go over some waiver wire pickups, and then we're going to do Matt's All In segment, but we're going to do it a little bit different this time, and even Matt doesn't know how it's going to be, so this is going to be pretty interesting. But let's start off first. Bucks and Falcons. Right off the bat, we're starting off with an injury here. Doug Martin, it sounds like he's going to be out for the season. He's missing at least, obviously, this week's game with a torn labrum. Michael James, obviously, the clear guy to get here. I just got to ask Matt, considering Martin's troubles this year, just 3.6 yards per carry and having a rookie quarterback, let's say Doug Martin is out for the year. Is James going to be a top 30 back for you the rest of the season?
Yeah, I'll say he's top 30, and I think he's certainly a must-add with how little production has been put out there from the NFL in the running back position. So, a guy that's not really going to have a lot of troubles as far as getting touches, I guess so, yeah, top 30, but it doesn't mean he's any good. Yeah,
I'm really worried. I mean, Martin obviously hasn't been producing, so I can't see how, a lesser talent like Mike James here could get, could obviously put up any sort of better numbers than Martin, but Harry Douglas kind of shows us that he's the wide receiver to own with Roddy White hurt. 7 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown, including 6 for 140 in the touchdown in the first half. I think this is a little bit more of a case, though, of Tony Gonzalez kind of being shut down, having a game plan for double and triple teaming Tony Gonzalez. So they just kind of had to go to Douglas by, just because he was the only guy remaining pretty much out there. But Jacquizz Rodgers, 16 touches in this game, 8 for 16 rushing, 8 for 46 receiving, and 2 touchdowns. It's now his 4th straight game with at least 8 fantasy points. On pace for 66 receptions, averaging over 16 touches and 70 total yards per game since Steven Jackson's been out. Next week against Arizona, is he a top 20 running back for you, Matt?
Yeah, if Jackson's out, I think I ranked as Jackson being there this week, although not at 100%, obviously, so he was a little lower than he usually would be for me. Obviously, if Jackson wasn't there, I'd like him a whole lot more, but, I think this is the week we see Steven Jackson back, and I think that's going to move Jacquizz, not so much this week, but in the weeks coming up, move back for sure as far as production and touches. One thing with Harry, too, 7 targets, he caught all 7. That's not going to happen again. Yeah,
like I said, Harry, I think it's Tony Gonzalez being shut down. That's what a lot of that was.
Another guy we'll talk about later.
All right. Bengals-Lions. Not only did Megatron play in this game, but he just outright dominated. I mean, 9 for 155 and 2 touchdowns, including a 50-yard bomb where, I don't know if you saw it, Matt, but he just outleaps 3 Bengals defenders.
Yeah, it looked like a Hail Mary.
Yeah, that's what Megatron does. He just goes up and gets it. You just throw the ball up there, and if you're Matthew Stafford, obviously Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback, but throwing to a guy like Calvin, you could have somebody like your Josh Freeman throwing him the ball, and Calvin's going to go up and get it. A.J. Green, equally nice day here. 6 catches for 155 yards and a touchdown, including an 82-yard touchdown of his own. Reggie Bush, kind of a little sluggish, kind of like the down game, like we were saying last week. 20 carries, 50 yards rushing, 3 for 44 receiving. Like I said, this was his down game, so of course next week it's going to be his good game, so make sure you get him in your lineups. But Andy Dalton, 2nd straight 25-plus point fantasy performance. With Bradford and Cutler injuries, Luck, Rivers, Flacco on byes this week, is he going to be a top 12 quarterback for you?
I'm not sure if I had him quite that high.
Going up against the Jets defense here.
Yeah, I just did my rankings too, and I've already forgot where I had him ranked. Honestly, I don't remember where I put him. But, I imagine he's right around that point with, like you said, the injuries, the bye weeks. And he has been hot. You've seen this in the past. Andy can kind of get hot and put some strings together, some good performances. So certainly a bye week type filling guy for sure.
I'm kind of cheating here a little bit, but I think he's probably going to be around 15 for me. I haven't done my rankings yet, but I'm going to have him probably outside of the top 12, but not too far outside that top 12. A lot of guys on bye, so that kind of helps things. Bills, Dolphins. CJ Spiller. 9 touches for just 7 total yards. I don't know if you saw this, but I tweeted it out yesterday. He's only been on the field for 20.9% of the Bills' offensive plays in the last 3 weeks. Just 45 snaps. And only 24.8% of the snaps since week 3. I mean, he is just not on the field for them. I don't know if it's because of his injury or just because, like this game, he wasn't productive, but he is just not on the field for some reason. And I can't understand why, the consensus among most rankers is to keep ranking him ahead of Fred Jackson. I mean, I understand the breakout ability, but you got to start putting Fred Jackson ahead of him in your rankings, right, Matt?
Yep, this week I did. I had Fred pretty high this week. CJ quite a bit below him. He's obviously just not right there. It's got to be the injury that's holding him back and the reason why he's not been on the field. He's not even really getting involved in the passing game. Clearly, yeah, Fred's the guy there for me now. I'm ready to say that.
Yeah, it's scary that we're already talking about Fred Jackson surpassing a guy like C.J. Spiller. Ryan Tannehill, another solid game here. Good bye week fill-in guy. Only 1 game this year, under 13 fantasy points. Charles Clay, another touchdown. 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Are you still buying him as a top 10 tight end? I mean, granted, his only catch in this game was that touchdown, but still a top 10 tight end for you?
Yeah, not hard to be top 10 tight end. It's those couple top guys and then a bunch of the others. And Clay is definitely a red zone threat guy they really look to. So yeah, I'm still buying the top 10 tight end.
All right. Patriots, Jets. Gronkowski comes back, and fantasy owners just everywhere rejoice that he's back and actually playing. Played in just 51 snaps, just under 2/3 of their team plays. Still finished with 8 catches for 114 yards on a whopping 17 targets. Oh yeah, he's back. I mean, crazy targets in limited time. I mean, a third of the plays he was in the game on, he was targeted. This is gonna be Brady's guy. I am so buying into him after this game, even though you would be buying high on him. I mean, yeah, but Brady needs receivers, and all of his receivers have been so inconsistent that now that he has Gronk back, he is just going to feed the beast.
Well, we all have been talking, Brady. When Gronk comes back, he'll look better. He was awful in this game as well. Really featuring Gronk. Obviously, it's going to be pretty easy to defend if you're going to put 17 targets his way. I don't know about Brady. I'm getting worried. I really, really am. We'll see as Gronk gets a little bit more snaps. Gets into a little bit better shape, although he looked pretty good. Brady's scaring me. I don't know so much about that top 10 anymore after this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does get a boost with Gronk coming back. I still have him in the top 10, probably around 7, 8-ish, I would probably say. I still have him a little high with Gronk coming back. Chris Ivory here, 34 for 104. Speaking of feeding the beast, I mean, they just kept feeding Chris Ivory here. Still not buying into this. Powell was healthy and just not getting the carries. But, 34 carries for Chris Ivory, I think, is obviously not repeatable. And he had a terrible yards per carry against a Patriots defense that was still missing Vince Wilfork and obviously Jared Mayo. So I still just not buying into this. You like Chris Ivory, though, don't you, Matt?
Yeah, I do. But I think I got a feeling this had a lot to do with game plan. Where are the Patriots hurting right now? That's up the middle. Wilfork and Mayo out, like you just said. So Ivory is clearly the guy between the tackles on this team that's going to excel in that regard. So I think that was the case of let's pound it where they're hurting and work for the Jets. But I don't think 34 carries is happening again, although it is nice to see Chris get involved like this. It's just, did he stay healthy after this one? Let's see the practice reports. You assume 34 carries, he's probably banged up. That hammy going to flare up soon.
Yeah, that's true. You don't think about that, but Chris Ivory always prone to injury, so
I ranked him higher than Powell this week, though. Will you?
I will too. Yeah.
Cowboys first week of that. I mean, since week 1, I'd say.
Yeah. First, second week. Yeah. Yep. Cowboys Eagles. Vic reportedly going to be the starter here. So prior to his injury, Vic was 5th in fantasy points per game as far as quarterbacks go. If he's still on your waiver wire, you got to go get him. Meanwhile, guys like me who spent $50 in fab budget last week on Nick Foles can just sit back and cry. I mean, bad situation there, but I think this increases the value for Deshaun Jackson. While Riley Cooper kind of comes back down to earth. Vic kind of likes Deshaun Jackson a lot, kind of feeds him, and just stays away from Riley Cooper as much. What are your thoughts on Cooper versus Jackson?
Yeah, definitely Jackson for me. And I think that Vic coming back will help McCoy as well.
Terrence Williams clearly taking over the Miles Austin role here. 6 for 71, a touchdown on 7 targets. Meanwhile, Miles Austin, 0 receptions for the second straight game on just 3 targets. I think this is a pretty easy question, but the rest of the season, Miles Austin or Terrence Williams?
Oh, yeah, definitely Williams. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about these guys when Austin had just gotten injured. And what I thought might happen is happening. You're seeing Williams taking over that role. I think the Cowboys are just sick and tired of Miles Austin and trying to rely on him when he just can't stay healthy. Williams is a young kid who's putting it together, so why not go with him?
Yeah, speaking of Cowboys receivers here too, I just got to point out, first 50 games of a receiver's career, player A has 242 receptions, 3,440 yards, and 35 touchdowns. Player B, 217 receptions, 3,362 yards, and 25 touchdowns. We're talking,
Michael Irvin and
20. We're talking 25 less receptions, about 100 less yards, and 10 touchdowns less. Which 2 receivers am I talking about?
Are you talking Cowboy receivers?
Not both of them.
Oh, you're talking about Calvin and Dez.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dez is the one with 35 touchdowns.
It's scary to think that through 50 games, Dez has done better than Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
that's saying something.
Calvin got off to a slow start in his career. So did Dez.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be... It's just interesting to point out for me that Dez doing much, much better than many people thought. I mean, I think he came off with a little bit of a slow start in the beginning, too, though.
Yeah, he did, absolutely.
Bears-Redskins, this game, I mean, how... Cutler tears his groin muscle early in this game.
Man, you see the way he was walking.
I've obviously never torn my groin muscle, but I just hearing that, it just I just can't even think of it.
Yeah.
It just makes me want to cross my legs.
Did you see him walking out of that, into the tunnel? It was just... it was exactly what you'd think if you just tore your cock and balls.
God, I just can't even imagine. So he's out at least 4 weeks. We've had a lot of questions on Twitter about how this affects Marshall and Jeffrey. The answer truly is we don't know yet. I mean, it's interesting to see how McCown, how he'll focus with Marshall and Jeffrey. In this game with McCown, Marshall was 3 for 47 on 6 targets. Jeffrey 4 for 105 and a touchdown on 5 targets with McCown. A lot of the targets for Marshall. Marshall, I think, had 4 targets earlier in the game from Cutler. So, kind of seems like he's splitting it up pretty evenly, looking for Jeffrey a little bit deeper. But I think it's still a little too early to say. What do you think? Do you think McCown hurts both of them compared to Cutler?
Yeah, I think clearly he's not the quarterback Cutler is. He definitely performed well this past weekend, but you got to remember who it was against. Not a very good defense. So, let's see as the matchups get a little tougher as we go along here. I think it certainly hurts them. They're still going to be okay. I'm not saying it's dropping them greatly, but they're not going to be where they were. A couple spots down, I'd say, for each of them. He's just not as talented as Jay Cutler. There's a reason he's been a career backup.
Yeah. Roy Halou here, 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Are you buying into it? Do you think... Yeah, I mean, I've heard mixed theories about this. Shanahan obviously saying that they were long drives, or they were with this, or they were that, going with the more hurry up, and Halou just happened to be in there. Do you think that's all just Shanahan talk, or do you think there's something to that?
Coach talk is always tough to determine what's true, what's not.
Even harder with Shanahan.
Yeah, this is a game I want to watch. I just want to see how these 3 rushing touchdowns happened. Was it Morris, a couple carries, tired, bringing Halou, just happened to be at the certain situation on the field? I honestly don't know. I got to imagine Morris is not losing his goal line job. He was outstanding in that regard last year. You buying low on Morris?
Yeah,
I think so. I think people are out there going to be scared for sure that Halou had these 3 rushing touchdowns. So if you get an owner that's worried about Morris and maybe thinks his value's dropped quite a bit because of that, might be a good time to buy it. But like I said, I do want to see what happened here, and if it happens again another week, then we know what's going on. But it's tough to say right now. Like I said, as well as Morris did last year in this regard, I can't imagine he just lost the job in the goal line.
Did have an early fumble, which I'm curious to see. Like you said, I want to go back and watch that game and kind of see what went on there. So hopefully we'll have more for you guys on Friday's podcast about that.
But about Halou, though, what do you think with Halou? Are you anything interesting
Halou,
with him?
The last 3 weeks, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the waiver wire stuff, but 3 straight games with over 10 touches. So he is getting work. And if he's getting the goal line carries now, if we know this for sure, very, very interesting, obviously. If he's getting that many touches and the goal line work, could be a really interesting play.
But like we said, we gotta see that again for another week.
Yeah. Jordan Reed, just great call by Rob here. Fred Davis was a healthy inactive in this game, and all Jordan Reed was catch every ball thrown to him. Caught all 9 of his targets for 134 yards and a touchdown. I think Jordan Reed's another guy probably getting into that 10.
Way have not been caught by him. That's a pretty outstanding ratio.
Sticky hands.
Yeah.
Sticky
so
hands.
If I'm a quarterback, I'm throwing the football his way a little more. He looks good, real good.
Yeah, really
another
good.
one of those basketball player guys.
Rams Panthers, another game, another injury. Sam Bradford out for the season with a torn ACL. All Rams receivers are now droppable, right? I mean, before the only guy that you were really kind of considering was Austin Pettis, but the Rams today signing Brady Quinn and Austin Davis is looking real ugly for St. Louis. I think even Austin Pettis is droppable even in 12-team leagues.
Oh yeah. There's nobody other than Stacy. I think this might help him a little bit. They're going to have to lean on him even more. Brady Quinn, Austin Davis, not fantasy relevant, but I'll tell you, I really liked Austin Davis from what I've seen from him in the preseason. So we'll be interested to see what happens there. This team, though, it's unfortunate. Poor Sam Bradford, poor Rams.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I know they're coming out right now and saying they're not going to draft a quarterback, but this makes it just that much more interesting now, I think.
Yep.
Tolbert, TD, takes another vulture touchdown away from DeAngelo Williams. Has at least 8 touches in 4 of the last 5 games. Just another guy to keep an eye on. Also, Jonathan Stewart practiced today for the first time since November and is planning a Week 10 return. So, doesn't look like the future is getting any brighter for DeAngelo Williams anytime soon. And we'll talk about that Thursday night game a little bit later in the podcast here. But Chargers, Jaguars, Ryan Matthews, I think he's back. Second straight game with over 20 carries and over 100 yards. Is now the 17th highest running back on the season as far as points go. So, rest of the season, Ryan Matthews or Giovanni Bernard? What do you think, Matt?
Bernard.
Yeah, I think this one's close, and I'm probably going Bernard with you as well. Matthews or Fred Jackson?
Fred Jackson.
Yeah, Fred Jackson for me, too. That's not close. Ryan Matthews or Darren Sproles?
Ryan Matthews.
Yeah, Ryan Matthews for me, too. I'm not in very much on Darren Sproles.
I just hate how they don't give him any goal line work.
They used to, too. They used to target him a little dump-off passes in the red zone.
I think if you were on the roster, they'd probably be like, Marcus, get in here! Get Matthews out!
Yeah.
Go run in for this touchdown.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating, because if he got that, then...
Yeah, Danny Woodhead with a 2-yard touchdown run. Come on,
the
really?
guy's 5, who knows, 180 pounds.
I think he still rides in a booster seat in his car. Does he... the height, what's the height limit? 4'9", you're supposed to be in a booster seat?
Yeah.
Danny Woodhead was in that until about 3 years ago.
He still hasn't been able to go to the local fair.
Yeah. Can't ride on the tilt-a-whirl. Keenan Allen and Justin Blackmon both come back down to earth. Allen, 3 for 67 on 6 targets. Blackmon, 6 for 58 on 9 targets. And MJD, do we even need to talk about this guy anymore? Can we just skip over him from now on? He's just, we skip all the other guys that aren't fantasy relevant, right?
Yeah, I guess you're hoping now that he gets traded to a contender somewhere that thinks they need a running back to make the run. That's about all you can hope for. And, yeah, they came back down to earth, Blackmon and Allen, but they were still involved. 9 targets for Blackmon, you like to see that. He's not going to blow up every game. He'll be just fine. Keenan Allen, rookie, defenses figure a guy out. I still like what I see from him. Good size, good talent. I think the best receiver there in San Diego, so not too worried about either one of those guys.
Yeah. Quick to point out, though, that Cecil Shorts did lead the Jaguars in receptions, in targets, I should say. So still obviously getting a lot of work there as well. 49ers Titans, CJ 2 yards per carry, as we determined his new nickname to be. After this game, still averaging under 12 carries a game, under 30 rushing yards per game in the last 4. But it's getting it done in the passing game. 4 for 71, a touchdown in this game receiving. You think he's turning into more of a Darren Sproles type running back? You're kind of relying on his receiving now instead of his rushing? Does that, obviously it's not a very good comparison. I'm just saying, do you think he's turning more into a receiving threat and kind of taking a step away from his running game?
I don't know. I think if Locker keeps playing the way he is playing this year, things can get better for CJ YPC. CJ2YPC.
CJ2
yards per carry. I gotta get used to that one. It's been so different all this time. But yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think Locker playing as well as he has, it's going to help him. So, I don't think he's a Darren Sproles type running back. He still gets the carries, although hasn't really been getting much lately. You know, he's still fast. So I'll tell you what, when he took that one up the middle on that little screen, he still got those jets for sure.
Yeah. Colin Kaepernick, speaking of another guy underperforming this year, the zone read offense returned in this game, and so did Colin Kaepernick. 68 yards rushing and a touchdown on 11 carries. I think we need to see this a little bit more consistently. Obviously, the zone read worked in this game, so hopefully they stick with it. But this is only the second time this year he's topped 22 rushing yards. So until you see it at least one more time and they keep that zone read going, I wouldn't really count on the rushing yards for Colin Kaepernick. He will have a nice matchup this week against Jacksonville, and with the bye weeks, he'll probably fall back into my top 10, but still kind of a hard guy to trust right now. Browns-Packers, what a hit on Jermichael Finley. I mean, that was just scary. I mean, if you didn't see it, it was just, he got hit and was motionless for several minutes.
His head actually was, like, shaking.
Yeah.
It was awful to watch.
It determined that he has a spinal contusion and will be out a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks, and his 2013 season's in jeopardy. I think I saw a tweet from him earlier today that just kind of said, you know, was able to make my walk from my bed to the bathroom today, so it was a good day. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, I think you're safe to drop Jermichael Finley. I think in redraft leagues, I don't think he's coming back this year, and I think he's, you know, if you're thinking he's really going to come back in 4 to 6 weeks, I think in 4 to 6 weeks you're going to be upset that you didn't drop him sooner because you're going to be wasting a roster spot on him.
Yeah, I read a thing about how after that bad concussion he had earlier this year, his son asked him not to play football anymore, Daddy.
Well, that's the other thing.
After seeing this on the field, what's the kid going to be saying now?
Yeah, I mean,
this is interesting. If it's terrible. I hope everything works out.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, multiple concussions this year, too, so you know it takes a little bit longer to return from a second one or a third one and things like that, so just that much more time. Jarrett Boykin steps up with Cobb and Jones out. Finley obviously getting hurt, and then Hayden on Nelson, so he finishes with 8 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. Eddie Lacy, another nice day, 22 carries for 82 yards and a rushing touchdown, 5 for 26 receiving. And Brandon Weeden just killing Cameron and Gordon in this game. Weeden averaging just 3.5 yards per pass attempt. I mean, that is terrible. I don't think I've ever seen it that low. Attempted 42 passes and still only finished with 149 yards. That's bad. That's real bad.
Cameron came
That's
out...
Josh Freeman bad.
Yeah. Cameron came out with a decent day here, but it was actually a lot of garbage work. His touchdown came with about 6 minutes left in the game, and I think probably 4 of the receptions as well within the last 6 minutes or so. So
terrible. Yeah, Cameron, I think, had a lot of those towards the end of the game.
Yeah, so Weeden does look to be hurting the Jordan and Cameron duo there.
Yeah.
Boy, I wish Hoyer was still around.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what Gordon and Cameron would be doing right now with Hoyer.
One thing I wanted to bring up, too, what was up with Fuzzy Whitaker in the game so much? Taking the Obadiah role. I mean,
Obadiah did play, so they were both there. I really don't know what was going on there.
Guy came out of nowhere, and he got a good amount of work.
Really did. Texans Chiefs. Arian Foster comes out in the first quarter with hamstring issues. Ben Tate comes in, doesn't really get it done, and apparently breaks a couple of his ribs, but comes back and
4
plays. They both, they have a bye week obviously this week. I would presume that Arian Foster's back this week. Tate, I mean, he came back into the game, so maybe they strap a flak jacket on him and just let him keep playing.
That's a tough mother.
I don't know how you break 4 ribs and keep playing.
Yeah.
You're taking hits,
especially when you're a running back.
Yeah, I don't know. But Case Keenum looked good in this game, 15 for 25 passing for 271 and a touch. And Jamal Charles continues to show that he's the only Chiefs player you're even thinking of starting. He's a stud. You're starting him every week. Best running back in football and fantasy
so
right
consistent.
now.
I don't think he's had less than 16 points all year.
Yeah. Ravens Steelers, another low offense, low fantasy football relevance game here. One thing to just alert the presses about though, Le'Veon Bell finally cracks 3 yards per carry, 19 carries for 93 yards. So Matt, rest of the season, Le'Veon Bell or DeMarco Murray?
Well, I read a thing saying the Cowboys aren't sold on DeMarco being their feature back for this organization anymore. So I don't even know if you want to answer DeMarco Murray versus
Anybody.
Randle. They're in Dallas, so Bell for me for sure.
Le'Veon Bell or Ryan Matthews?
I'm going to go Bell because the goal line opportunities will be there. That one's a little closer, though, for sure.
Yeah,
Much closer. I mean, and I have Ryan over DeMarco as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. That one's real close for me. I think you're splitting hairs there. Ryan Matthews at least involved a little bit in the passing game. Le'Veon Bell, not really, but like you said, does get the goal line work. I just hate his yards per carry average up until this game. If I saw one more game like this from Le'Veon Bell, I'm going Le'Veon Bell, but for now it's splitting hairs. If I was on either side of that trade, I would just keep the guy I got and ride it out and see how it goes.
Yep.
Ray Rice, another tough day here. 15 carries for 45 yards rushing, 4 for 27 receiving. It is the year of the underperforming running backs,
Unreal.
I feel. It's just the studs are just not getting it done.
Hey, Bell or Ray Rice rest of the year?
Ray Rice.
Yeah.
Just because there's way more upside there. And Ray Rice is involved in the passing game heavily.
It's unbelievable that I even just asked you that question.
It really is.
It's so sad what's happening to the NFL and these running backs.
Yeah. Broncos, Colts, and just like that, Andrew Luck made everybody forget about Peyton Manning, at least in this game, I guess. Throwing 3 touchdowns to Darius Hayward-Bay, Fleener, and Havili. Reggie Wayne, the big news here, tearing his ACL, done for the year. Just really hope he doesn't end his career like that. I really hope he comes back at least one more year. And
the talk is he'll be back. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that would be a terrible way to end your career, end a nice long career like that with an ACL tear. Safe to assume that Darius Hayward-Bay, a guy talked up a lot this offseason, and Fleener will now be more heavily involved in the offense. Kind of see them as being more the possession guys, while you still got T.Y. Hilton kind of stretching the field for those longer, deep throws. All right. Matt, I got to ask you, though. Now are you ready to finally agree with me that Trent Richardson is terrible? I mean, 10 straight games without breaking 60 rushing yards, just 14 carries for just 37 yards here, 3.1 yards per carry in the season, only 1 double-digit fantasy game. It just... Come on, man. I mean, come on. You got to be with me on this one now, right?
He's terrible.
I mean, it's just real bad.
Yep. But if I have him, I'm not trading him.
Well, yeah, because you're not going to get anything for him.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. If you did have him and you were offered Zach Stacy for him.
Deny it.
You would still?
I'd keep Trent.
Wow. All right. So you're still...
today a guy in our home league just lost Doug Martin. He has Trent Richardson. I offered him DeAngelo Williams for Trent, and he said no. Trent's on a bye this week. DeAngelo is not.
I just hate DeAngelo not getting the touchdowns.
Yeah, but I think that's about what you're looking at, right around that level. Because when he said no to me, I said, you're 1-5. You've got a bye week with Trent. I think this is a trade you got to make. I think that's about what you'd be looking at if you traded him. That's why I say you got to keep him right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's right around the range, though, I think. Nothing really to talk about on the Broncos side. I mean, all these offensive guys are studs. Moreno had a down game, but you're not worried about him.
Well, before we go to the Broncos, now that Reggie is out,
that pretty much was the Broncos. That was me covering the Broncos, but we can go back to the Colts though.
What do you think about the receivers there now?
For the Colts?
Yeah,
I like DHB a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I like I just said, I think he's going to take over that Reggie Wayne role. He's going to be the possession guy.
Yep.
And T.Y. Hilton's still going to be the down-the-field guy. So
11 targets yesterday for T.Y., and I think he had, or the other day for T.Y., and I think 2 receptions or 3. I don't know
I'd
what's
have to
going
go
on
something
with
like that.
But I like DHB. I agree with you.
He'll be much more consistent, I think, than T.Y. will be. T.Y. will have his games now with Reggie Wayne being gone, but I think it's going to be much more consistent and smoother sailing for Darius Hayward-Bay owners. But Monday Night Football, Vikings and Giants, Josh Freeman, Matt.
Ugh.
Josh Freeman. All I can say is wow. I mean, just
is it funny that during the game I was actually saying, God, I wish they'd put
Matt Castle back in.
I hope
Christian
they put
Ponder.
Ponder or Castle in right now.
53 pass attempts and only completed 20 of them. I mean, terrible.
That's the funny thing. 53. What the? I figured you'd wake up this morning to Leslie Frazier being fired. First of all, you can't put a quarterback in this quick. It's just impossible.
They
How's
don't.
the guy?
Yeah, they don't know that. They don't know the offense yet.
What does he come out with? Did they have 10 plays? Probably. He probably had 10 plays. He knew what the routes were going to be. I mean, it's tough playing quarterback at this level when you don't really have a clue where your wide receivers are going to be. Blocking schemes.
You're setting him up for failure.
Yeah, it's what were they thinking putting him in there, and then to throw it 53 times. The game plan might want to be let's throw as little as possible with a guy who knows 10 plays for this game, but no, we're gonna throw it 53 times.
Especially when you have a running back like Adrian Peterson.
Unbelievable. I mean, it was 50. Watch the game. They literally had 8-9 in the box every play. So Adrian owners take solace in that, I guess, but this is going to be what you're going to see.
The worst part is the prevent defense at the end of the game actually allowed Freeman to get more completions than he probably should have had.
Yep.
So even these terrible numbers are inflated a little bit because of that prevent D at the end of the game.
Yeah, I saw something like 14 attempts where the kind that sailed over their head.
16 he overthrew his receivers on 16 plays.
Bad.
So it was announced he's the starter for next week's game for you guys as well in Sunday Night Football. You're starting your Green Bay defense against these Vikings. I mean, it's going to be another ugly primetime game for you guys. Peyton Hillis, though, comes in, just takes over the Brandon Jacobs role. 18 carries for just 36 yards and a touchdown. Michael Cox, who obviously didn't put up much better numbers, 11 carries for 23 yards, I thought looked a little bit better, a little bit flashier, a little bit faster. I would actually prefer that Michael Cox get a little bit more work if Jacobs is going to be out, but I think Brandon Jacobs' job is safe here, and I think he's going to be healthy and ready to come back next week. I'm glad he's not kind of pulling a Roddy White and kind of trying to play through the injury where it's going to hurt him for a while. I think him sitting out is going to make him healthy enough for next week. I am, however, worried about Hakeem Nicks. Led the team in targets with 10, but had so many drops and just finished with 2 for 28 receiving. So rest of the season, Hakeem Nicks or Terrence Williams?
Oh, boy.
You pausing
I think I'll still say Nicks, but it's very close there.
Yeah, for me it's still Nicks. Hakeem Nicks or Anquan Bolden?
Bolden.
Yeah, that one's close for me, and I'm probably taking Bolden just because I think he's been getting a little bit more of the red zone looks than Hakeem Nicks has been getting.
Yeah.
And then last one, Hakeem Nicks or his teammate Rueben Randle. Finished with 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games.
I'm going to say Randle.
I am too.
I just have a feeling he's slowly going to eat into more and more of Nick's snaps.
Even if he's not getting as many targets as Nicks, he's performing better with less targets.
Yeah, and how high did he jump last night to catch that ball?
Yeah, he looks good, and I would much rather have Randle right now over Nicks. So previewing the Thursday night game here, we got Panthers-Bucks. Cam Newton, obviously going up against Tampa Bay here. Defense allowing the 9th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. They let up 3 touchdowns to Foles and company 2 weeks ago. Let up 3 more touchdowns to Matt Ryan and a bunch of nobodies that he was throwing to. So obviously allowing a lot of passing touchdowns here. You're starting Cam Newton. Bucks haven't allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back all year. Just in case you thought this was the game that DeAngelo Williams was going to break a long one, he's not. It's not going to happen. Carolina, 5th best against opposing wide receivers. And you're starting their D definitely against Mike Glennon. Glennon does love Vincent Jackson. So you're definitely playing him. He's been just beast since Glennon's taken over. Carolina, also just quick note on their defense, haven't allowed a 100-yard running back all year, so don't get too excited about Mike James and what will be his first start of his career. So Matt, let's jump now into a couple of waiver wire pickups. As we mentioned last week, our writer at the FF Jerk on Twitter kind of gives you waiver wire ads typically every Monday morning, pretty much before any other website has waiver wire ads. He's giving them to you before that previous week was even finished. That's how quick he's getting them out for you guys. But a couple of guys to mention this week. Jarrett Boykin, I think he's got to be the number 1 pickup this week. With a Cobb injury, the Finley injury, he's going to get a lot of work. Matt, do you agree? Is he the number 1 pickup for you? If he's still out there.
Yeah, and not only that, he looked like a very skilled player out there. He's got good size. He's not a little guy, 6'2", 220. I liked what I saw, and of course, if Aaron Rodgers is throwing you the football, you gotta like what you see out of Jarrett Boykin. I'll agree with you. That's the number 1 pickup this week.
Another receiver here, Darius Hayward-Bay. We just kind of talked about him a little bit, but I think obviously if Boykin's gone, I think he's the next guy to pick up. I think he's going to get a lot of work with Wayne out. He's just going to take over that role. Mike James, we talked about him a little bit too. He's the starting running back, but Martin hasn't been effective. I don't see how Mike James is going to be that effective. And then, like we said, technically Martin's not out for the year yet. He could try to play through it, so Mike James could just be a 1 week guy. Who knows? But I don't see it. Roy Halou, 10 plus touches each of the last 3 games. Last 3 games, those fantasy points are 14, 7, and 22. I like him more than James. Is that crazy? Like, in a nutshell, I would probably rank Roy Halou over Mike James this week.
Well, I think it depends what your roster looks like. I think if you need... Halou's got more upside is what I'm saying. So on the bench, if he's a bench guy that's not going to touch my lineup anytime soon, it's going to be Roy Halou for me as well. But if he's a guy that I'm going to look to play, as a flex possibility, I think I'll go with Mike James. But Halou, I love the talent he has. If there happened, God forbid, an injury to Morris, I think you get yourself a top 10 running back because he can do it out of the backfield as well, unlike Morris. So I see why you'd say that. And like I said, it depends on your roster. Like me, I've got a good record in our home league there. I would definitely go Roy Halou over Mike James. If I'm in a situation where my record isn't so good, I'm going to pick up Mike James.
Finally, another running back here, Chris Ivory. I still don't want any part of any Jets player. You still like Ivory though?
Yeah, I'll still same thing with Mike James. We're talking about a running back in a league where really so few have been producing. Why not? He's going to be a bench guy. Like I said, your concern with him is, he had a good game. He's going to come out of one of these games banged up. That's just what he does. So definitely a guy to pick up, but I wouldn't spend too much on him.
Mr. Son of a Beach, let's play some cards.
All in, bluffing, calling, or folding him. Trent Richardson.
Calling or folding.
Rob Gronkowski. I am all in on Jamal Charles.
He was just compared to Barry Sanders.
All in segment here now with Matt. We're going to go over a couple guys. And Matt, like I told you, we're going to kind of switch things up a little bit. So I'm going to name off a couple stats. I'm going to have you try to guess the player first and then tell us how you feel about him. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot with a couple of these. But this quarterback, 20-plus fantasy points in 4 games this year. Only second to Peyton Manning as far as how many 20-plus fantasy point games he's had. Currently the number 2 overall quarterback in fantasy points, number 4 in points per game. Matt, can you name that quarterback? Who is it?
Matthew Stafford?
It is Stafford. Good job. Look at you. That was not you didn't know it all. That's a good call. So what do you think? Are you all in, folding, or calling on Matthew Stafford and his being the quarterback 2 right now in overall fantasy points?
Well, you just asked me if I buy in that he's number 2 right now. So yes.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
He actually is number 2 right now.
Rest of the season, are you buying into him?
He's certainly up there. Calvin being healthy plays a big part in where he's going to end up this year. And from the looks of this past weekend, Calvin's just fine. So, yeah, he's certainly up there. I drafted him in just about every draft I was in this year because I expected a big season for him. Last year, some of the stats, we've talked about in previous podcasts, guys getting stopped at the 5-yard line or in. It was ridiculous, and it's really why I thought it was just bad luck last year. So Stafford, top 3.
Top 3.
I like Breeze. I really like Breeze as well. So I don't know if he'll end up beating him out, but I could see Stafford right up there.
All right. This quarterback has had double-digit fantasy points in every game this year. Currently averages more points per game than Tom Brady, which probably isn't too difficult right now. And has had a touchdown pass in every game this year. Name that quarterback.
Ryan Tannehill.
What? How do you... Seriously, you just know these, right?
Yeah.
Jesus
so I was
Christ.
right. Good. All right.
Wow. That is impressive. Are you all in, folding, or calling on Ryan Tannehill?
All in as what? My bye week fill-in? I'm not starting Ryan Tannehill. I think there's better options out there. He's certainly been consistent, but...
Do you think he's going to keep producing the way he's producing right now?
Yeah. He'll end up around 15, 16 points a game. He's certainly a bye week fill-in guy. If he had to be my starting guy because I was starting Cutler, I'd be okay with that, But if you were starting Cutler, I wonder why you were starting Cutler. Why didn't you have something else? So, yeah, he's a bye-week fill-in. A deep league, I can see him starting, or two-quarterback league. I'd love to have him as my number 2 quarterback. So I guess all in that regard.
Nice, safe guy.
Yep.
That's for sure. All right, so one running back here. This running back has had at least a dozen touches in 5 straight games. Since week 2, he is the running back 9 in standard scoring. And despite being a top 10 running back since week 2, he's never rushed for over 65 yards this year. In fact, he's averaging less than 40 rushing yards per game, but he's currently on pace for 57 receptions. Name that running back.
Roy Halou.
No.
Damn.
I'll give you one more guess.
Since week 2, he is the running back 9 in standard scoring. Despite being a top 10 RB since week 2, he's never rushed for 65 yards.
Giovanni Bernard.
Okay, yeah.
So, all in, folding or calling on Giovanni Bernard.
So basically, I'd be all in at the fact that he's a top 10 running back the rest of the way.
Just the way he's performing. Just the way he's performing this year.
Oh yeah, I'm all in for sure, and I think it's going to get better as the season goes on. I've continued to expect him to get more and more work. It certainly has happened. Ben Jarvis hasn't gone away as much as I thought he would. I think it depends on matchups. He's the between the tackle guy. In some places, that works out a little better. So I think that's what's keeping Ben around. But good old Benny. But yeah,
I love how he calls him Benny too.
Good old
Ben Jarvis,
Gio. Good old Gio. Yeah, I'm all in. Love his talent. I wish he was a 20 touch a game back.
I got to tell you, this next one, this wide receiver, really surprised me. But this wide receiver is currently on pace for a career-high 96 receptions and 146 targets. Since week 2, he's the wide receiver 4 in standard scoring and the wide receiver 2 in PPR. Since week 2, he's had at least 5 receptions in every game and over 87 yards in 5 of 6 games. Name that wide receiver.
I have no idea. Is it Denarius Moore?
Eric Decker.
Oh, yeah. I would have guessed him if he gave me another chance.
That's amazing, I thought.
That's what I was thinking as
wide
well.
receiver 4 in standard scoring and wide receiver 2 in PPR since week 2.
Yeah.
He has been beast, and I still think that people have that mantra of being that third receiver in Denver. I don't think people realize what he's gotten done since week 2. But
every play has a different number 1, literally, when Peyton Manning's your quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's the number 4 guy out there. If he's the read pre-snap that's going to be open, Peyton usually sees it. How are you going to say that Demarius, Welker, or Decker are 1, 2, and 3? I think they're all number 1 for that team.
Yeah. So make sure to follow us on Twitter, me at Marcus Katkin, Matt at Matt Dugal, and make sure to keep sending your questions to #BlindsidePod or blindside@blindsidefootball.com. We'll read them on the podcast here. And don't forget, Matt, Rob, and I are live tweeting every Sunday from noon till 1 p.m. with your start-sit questions. So make sure to send them to #AskBlindside to get them answered on Sundays. Got a couple of Twitter questions today. One from Andrew Friedman, at @AFriedman15 on Twitter. He asks, bye week seems to come at a good time for Ray Rice. What do you think of him moving forward?
Yeah, it's certainly come at a good time. There just hasn't been a ton of talk about what really is going on with him. So
yeah. I think he's a running back 2/flex guy for the rest of the season.
Yep.
If he's my running back 1, I'm nervous.
I would say he's more, high-end RB2, low-end RB2, right in that range. He's still got the upside of, the 20-touch, the 30-touch guy that we've seen even this year. So I don't know exactly what is going on with him, so I don't know what the bye week's going to help. But, hopefully that staff gets a chance to look at things a little closer and get things right. He's a guy they got to get going if they want to have a long season there in Baltimore. So, what do I think of him moving forward? Yeah, high-end RB2.
All right, like I said, I got him more of an RB2/flex play. I'm nervous about him. Superfan Graham, he emailed into us and asked, at what point do you stop holding on to handcuffs that aren't yours? For example, at what point should you stop holding on to guys like Bryce Brown if you're not the LaShawn McCoy owner? And then his kind of follow-up question to it is, would stashes like Andre Brown or Shane Vereen be better than having Bryce Brown if you're not the McCoy owner?
It's tough. I mean, what you could do, since you're getting later on in the season here, is a smart McCoy owner would want to make sure they have Bryce for the home stretch. I would. In
fairness to Graham, he said he tried that with the McCoy owner, and the McCoy owner was not interested in Bryce Brown at all in trading for him. Obviously, that McCoy owner is an idiot, yeah. But let's just say that that's out of the situation for him, because that isn't. But what do you do there? Would you rather stash one of those guys or hold on to Brown, hoping something happens to McCoy?
Boy, I think I would rather have Bryce Brown than Andre Brown, but Shane Vereen I might like. It's tough. I mean, with Bryce Brown, I think if McCoy goes down and you happen to have him, wow, you just hit the jackpot. Better than you did with Brown or Vereen, Andre Brown or Vereen. You've got a top 10 running back, no question, I think, if McCoy goes down with Bryce Brown. So
yeah, I'm with you. You're
still looking for upside there, right, with either one of these three, so I think probably Bryce Brown.
I actually like Vereen better.
But Vereen, yeah, like I said, Vereen might be... That's one
Vereen looked really good, even when him and Ridley were both healthy in that first game. He was getting a lot of work. Easily would have had that job from Ridley by now if he was healthy all season.
Who knows? We really don't know that in New England.
Easily. But that does it for this podcast. Matt, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, so what are we telling them there? Keep Bryce Brown, or...?
I'm ditching Bryce Brown for Shane Vereen. I'm not ditching Bryce Brown for Andre Brown.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Maybe talk... How long ago did he try? You mentioned here he talked to the McCoy owner.
He said he tried, and the McCoy owner just wasn't interested.
When he sent this question. Okay, so... Try to talk that guy into not being so stupid, but otherwise, yeah. Probably Shane Vereen. I don't hate keeping Bryce, though.
Yeah, I agree. But, well, that does it for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys on Friday.
See ya!
Yo, check it. It's my time. I'm rapping about Blindside, fantasy football podcast in this rhyme because they got me the inside scoop on Adrian Peterson. Yeah, he's that dude on Cam Newton. Yeah, they give me the news more on Megatron, Calvin Johnson if I stay tuned. On all quarterbacks, RG3 happens to be the fastest QB in the league. In fact, Colin Kaepernick is rider QB for them 49ers. It ain't hard to see, Some awesome people hosting Marcus Katkin and Matt Dugal. You should be joining. Skinny or fat, short or tall, anyone can tune in to Blindside Football. Have a try, dude. Listen on.